Today, the Torah portion is out of Numbers chapter 22, starting verse 2. And it's kind of a funny story, because you know what it's about? It's about God wanting to show off his people. Because God wants to show off his people. Now, I don't know about you. You got to understand that God's very proud of what he's doing through you, through all of us. And he wants to show you off. He wants to show people the kingdom through you. And that's what he wanted to do with Israel. So, he decides that there's a guy that's in Moab. Okay? I'll read about it first. His name is BALAK. Okay. Starting verse 2. He saw BALAK. I never remember to do this. Get my glasses. Okay. He saw BALAK, son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. Now, they've been wandering in the wilderness. It's 38 years, okay, that they've been wandering. And he saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And frightened was Moab of the people exceedingly, because numerous they were. And it says disgusted was Moab because of the children of Israel. Now, God did not tell Israel to conquer Moab. But they were still frightened. Everybody was frightened because God is in the earth and working through a people, and they're defeating giants. So Moab's afraid. Okay, now it says in the word that frightened was Moab. The word is gore, to sojourn, to abide. And it says disgusted was Moab. The word there is kutz. And if you take the vav out of the middle of the kutz, you get ketz. They were so frightened they came to the end of themselves. How many times it really takes a lot for all of us to come to the end of ourselves before we really have a relationship with God. We have to come to the end of ourselves. Our lives fall apart. It comes apart before we take serious our walk with the Lord. And maybe even before we come to the Lord in the first place. Well, I'm not trying to compare you to a pagan person here, but what I'm basically telling you is, it's like they were frightened, and it says they were brought to the birth pangs. They were brought to the time of troubles. They were brought to distress, to the point of death, in the fright. Have you ever been, I don't know about you, have you ever been so frightened that you could die? Okay, that bad, that kind of fright. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That was like so personal.
Yes. Well, that's kind of like what was happening to them. You know, so out of desperation, there was a really popular prophet around. But he wasn't a prophet of God. He was a prophet for purchase. And he happened to have communication with the devil and his minions, as well as the God of heaven. He could hear from all of them. Okay? So you know, God didn't have to hire him. Okay? God spoke to him, and God told him to speak if he was supposed to speak. But he wanted to make money in the process. Okay? He was wanting money. So he was purchased. So if there's a prophet out there that's doing it for money, they're walking like Bil'am. Actually, that's how you say Bil'am. It's really Bil'am. It's like, you know how the name of the band is Anan, Cloud People? Well, this is Bil'am. Okay? And Bil'am to wear out, to become old. BALAK. It comes from to swallow down, swallow up, engulf. That doesn't sound too good, is it? Okay, but so it means the one who's engulfed among the people, the one who's destroyed among the people. Okay, that's not good. And actually, the full name of Bil'am means not of the people. Okay, so if they're not of the people, then what are they of? They're probably of demons. Okay, so let's look at the top of page 2 of your notes. And I'm sorry if you didn't all get notes. Balak and Moab was so frightened, and their hearts melted in that fear. You know, when terms mean hearts are melting in that fear, it means they are coming to death. Because without a heart, you have no blood to pump through you, right? Their hearts melted because of fear. And they hired Bil'am to curse Israel. They did this even though God told Israel not to attack Moab. And that's in Deuteronomy 2, 9 and 19. Where it says that they weren't supposed to attack Moab. They saw the end of their existence in their fear. In the word disgusted, they came to their end. Okay? I'm not going to go over the meaning of Balak. I mean, it says it right here, it's on page 3. It means a destroyer, a devastator, to make or lay waste. That's Balak. And his father's name. Run to destroy. We're supposed to run to do the will of the Father as believers, but this guy was running to destroy. He was anxious to destroy. Okay, the meaning of Bil'am means to wear out, swallow up, engulf in darkness. And it means properly not of the people. And his father's name, Beor, means burning. Okay, he was from a city that means soothsayer. Okay, this is nothing good about this guy. Okay, Bil'am is a story of a compromiser. Okay, and what it means to be a compromiser. He listened to God and he listened to demons and prophesied for money. He was the common psychic back then. To be a compromiser here means you're a bringer of confusion, burning away in a wasted life. That's what a compromiser is. So much. Now, I'll just give you this example. I'm not saying this is a perfect example of Bil'am, but remember in Revelation where God is speaking to the church of Laodicea, and he said, because you're lukewarm, you're neither hot nor cold, I'm going to spew you out of my mouth. Well, that's the compromiser. That's a compromising spirit. Compromising with the world, and yet they think they have everything right, and they have so much wrong. Okay, and this is what this guy was like. He was very confident. Okay, he knew that he could do something wrong and really hurt someone. With his power, he had such power that the people knew that he had the power to curse and he had the power to bless. So we have power with demons, this guy. He can actually curse somebody and succeed. And that's why they went to him. That's why Balak said, we got to curse Israel. Will you do it for us? Okay, so, you know, he was a bringer of darkness. He was a perfect example of Satan. He looks like an angel of light. He is political, and his good words deceive many. And he used magical devices. He used charms and all sorts of stuff. Okay, now, there's a story, and I want to read that. It starts off, he's telling Bil'am, he's trying to hire him, and he's basically, Balak saying, they're going to destroy us. And what's about to happen, he says there's a people, this just got real loud. Is this too loud, or is it okay?
It's fine.
Okay, all right. He said that I know whoever you bless is blessed. This is Balak speaking to Bil'am. Whoever you bless is blessed, and whoever you curse is cursed. That's in verse 6 of Numbers 22. They went, the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian went with magical devices in their hand, and they came to Bil'am, and they spoke to him. The words of Balak. Okay, and he said to them, spend here the night, and I will respond to you with an answer. So they asked him, will you curse his people? And he says, just wait, and I'll find out what Yehovah is going to answer me. He said, I shall respond to you with an answer, and Yahweh shall speak to me. So they stayed, the officers of Moab did, with Bil'am. And God came to Bil'am and said, who are these men with you? Said Bil'am to God, Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent to me. Indeed, the people who are coming out of Egypt, they have covered the face of the earth. Now go and curse for me them. Perhaps I will be able to make war against them and drive them out. But Elohim said to Bil'am, you shall not go with them. You shall not curse his people, for blessed they are. Okay? They are blessed. Bil'am got up in the morning and said to the officers of Balak, go to the land, for refused has Yehovah to give you permission to go with you. They got up, the officers of Moab did, and they came to Balak, and they said, refuse has Bil'am to go with us. So he kept sending more and more people, higher ranking people, to try to get him to go. And then he kept seeking God, and God said no. Okay, so let's look at verse 20. God, Elohim, came to Bil'am at night and said to him, if to invite you the men came, get up and go with them, but only the instruction that I shall speak to you, that shall you do. Bil'am got up in the morning, saddled his she-donkey, and went with the officers of Moab. Flared at the anger of God because he was going and there stood an angel of Yehovah on the road as an impediment to him. He was riding on his she-donkey, and his two attendants were with him. The she-donkey saw the angel of Yehovah standing on the road with his sword drawn in his hand to turn away, and so turn away did the she-donkey from the road, and it went into the field. Then Bil'am struck the she-donkey to turn it back onto the road. Then standed the angel of Yehovah in the path of the vineyards, a fence on this side and a fence on that side. The she-donkey saw the angel of Yehovah and pressed against the wall, and it pressed the leg of Bil'am against the wall, and he continued to strike it. Continued did the angel of Yehovah to go ahead of him, and stood in a place that was narrow. That's the tsar, the trouble, where there was no path to turn right or left. The she-donkey saw the angel of Yehovah, and it squatted beneath Bil'am, and flared at the anger of Bil'am, and he struck the she-donkey with a stick. And Yehovah opened the mouth of the she-donkey, and it said to Bil'am, what have I done to you that you struck me these 3 times? And Bil'am said to the she-donkey, because you made a mockery of me, if only there were a sword in his hand, in my hand, then now I would have killed you. Did he have any realization that he was speaking to a donkey? He was speaking to a dumb ass. I'm sorry, I hope that didn't bother you, okay? But that's really what it was. Okay? It was a donkey. Okay, but, okay, the she-donkey said to Bil'am, am I not your she-donkey that you have ridden upon me from when you began until this day? Have I made it a practice to do to you such a thing? He said, no. Then Yehovah uncovered the eyes of Bil'am, and he saw the angel of Yehovah standing on the road with his sword drawn in his hand. He bowed his head and prostrated himself on his face. Said to him the angel of Yehovah, for what reason did you strike your she-donkey these 3 times? Indeed, I went out to impede, for made crooked was the path against me. See me, did the she-donkey, and it turned away before me these 3 times. Perhaps it turned away from me, since otherwise now even you would I have killed, and I would have saved the she-donkey. I would have saved it alive. Okay. And Bil'am said to the angel of Yehovah, I have sinned, for I did not know that you were standing to meet me on the road, and now, if it is evil in your eyes, I shall turn myself back. But the angel of Yehovah said to Bil'am, go with the men, but only the word that I shall speak to you, that you shall speak. Okay, let's go back. The way of God is humility, is brokenness. The way of God is the narrow path. Yeshua said, strive to enter the narrow path. The donkey was smarter than Bil'am. The donkey kept seeking the narrow path. Think about this. He saw the trouble and the danger in front of him, so he stayed on the narrow path. The word for she-donkey is atone. Atone. Like atonement, it's atone. And its root word is aton, which means perpetual, ever-flowing, constant. Okay, we're on page 4. Okay, it means cheek also, and head. Okay, and by the way, the word etanim, the 7th month is called Tishrei, and actually it has another name called etanim, which is where, this is connected to this name. It has to do with perpetual. There is a part of the name of Aharon's son, Itamar, which means coast of a palm tree, a righteous man. So this could represent a man after God, after a righteous man. The female donkey represents a righteous man. Now a male donkey, its name is chamor, and it literally means red, to boil up, to ferment, to grow with redness, to smear with pitch, trouble. It could represent flesh and distress. So the male donkey represents trouble and flesh, but the female donkey represents righteousness, perpetuousness, continuing. Okay, the angel, where did the angel of Jehovah stand? Okay, the angel was standing on the road. In the Hebrew there, the word is derech. It means the path of God, the way to go. Okay, first it was standing on the road. Okay, so let's look. Now, by the way, it says in verse 22, flared at the anger of God because he was going, and there stood an angel of Jehovah on the road as an impediment. You know what the word impediment there is? Satan. Satan. So the angel was standing in opposition, like Satan. Satan is in the path when we're going in the wrong way. Even though it's represented as an angel of the Lord, as an impediment, as a Satan in our path. Okay, so when we are not following the will of God, Satan is going to be in our path. And we will have a lot of trouble. So, it says here, the angel of Jehovah stood on the road as an impediment to him. He was riding on a she-donkey, and 2 attendants were with him. And the she-donkey saw the angel standing on the derech, the path, with his sword drawn in his hand, to turn away from the road, and he went into a field. Okay? And that's when he struck the donkey the first time. Okay, so the donkey was trying to avoid getting killed because he saw the angel of the Lord, or she saw the angel of the Lord. Okay, so first, the angel of Jehovah was standing on the road, and then it went into a field, okay, which represents the world, by the way. Throughout the Bible, the field is the world, okay? And then, after he struck the donkey, he goes, the Bil'am struck the she-donkey and turned back onto the road. Verse 24, then standeth the angel of Jehovah in the path of the vineyards, a fence on this side and a fence on that side. So she's getting more isolated, with something on the right and something on the left. This time it was a fence. Okay, so again, she is beginning to move into the path of God, the path that is the narrow path. And just from a natural standpoint, it is a more narrow path. Okay, many, remember, go into the wide path of destruction. But the narrow path, few can find it. Okay, so the goal is that this donkey is becoming more and more into the narrow path. It's wiser right now than Bil'am. Okay? And anyhow, then the she-donkey saw the angel of Jehovah and pressed against the wall. and it pressed the leg of Bil'am against the wall of the fence. And he continued to strike it. Continued did the angel of the Lord to go ahead of him and stood in a place that was narrow. The word narrow there, it's sar. It means troublesome. Where there was no path to turn on the left or to the right. Okay? In other words, now she's even more narrow than before. She's trying to find safety. Our safety is in the narrow path. If the enemy is in front of us, even though it's represented as the angel of Yehovah here, if the enemy is in front of us, we got to follow the narrow path. Because it's bringing destruction, and we have to look into the narrow path. We're in the season of Bein HaMasarim right now. Next Sunday, we'll begin, it will be the first fast. And it gets worse and worse and worse. So it's kind of like, we're kind of like the donkey right now. I know we're not really, the she-donkey, okay? The righteous she-donkey. The aton, okay? And we're walking in a more and more narrow path as we go along. In other words, we have to be more and more careful. We have to be less angry. We have to be less complaining. We have to be, more trusting in God. More walking with Him as you get deeper and deeper into the season. And I think it's amazing that this part always falls at this season. Because God is speaking to us, walk the narrow path. Take the narrow path. Okay, and that was the last path before finally God opens Bil'am's eyes. Okay, so let's look at a few scriptures. Look at Matthew 7, 13 and 14. There's a version called the Shem Tov Matthew. And it really puts this well, the scripture. But Shem Tov Matthew is believed to be the original book of Matthew written in Hebrew. See, the problem is when you change the language, the translation, ever hear that word's lost in translation? Well, a lot of stuff is lost in translation. So, when we go from the original Hebrew, we're going to get a more accurate translation than going from Hebrew to Greek and then back to English, or going to English. Okay, so, looking at Matthew 7, 13, and 14. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. For the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. Now, actually in the Shem Tov Matthew, it says, strive to enter the grievous narrow path. The troublesome narrow path. So what is he saying? I mean, if someone came to you when you first became a believer and they said, I need to tell you, you need to get saved. Okay, you got to come to the Lord. It's going to be trouble. There's going to be a lot of distress. Hey, would you have come knowing that there was a lot of distress in the path? But the thing is, what the distress really is the end of this. It's the dying of the flesh. It's the killing of the flesh. We have to follow God. Not because God said, you have to follow me. No. God doesn't want robots. He wants people that want to follow Him. Why? Because there's a blessing. I love always referring to this every year. But in the movie The Wizard of Oz, they take the yellow brick road. It's an unusual path. And it starts off in a circle, by the way. The calendar of God is a circle. And it goes counterclockwise. And it takes these odd paths. You don't know which way to go, and there's a witch along the way, and there's a few other things. Okay? But it's the way to go. To get to the kingdom. In this case, that's the Emerald Palace. That's the kingdom of God. That narrow path. You don't know what lies ahead. You don't know what trouble comes. There might be a lion. There might be a tiger. There might be a bear. Okay? you don't know what lies ahead, but you know this. You're protected in the narrow path. Because God is with you. Okay? And you're growing and you're maturing. And through the things you're suffering, you are becoming what God intended you to be in the first place. Because you don't know who you are. I don't know who I am. We are all influenced by what everybody says around us, and we're all trying to prove something to somebody, stepping over everybody else that people tell us are nothing. You know what? According to this word, that even the smallest of us, even what is considered weak, is important. Yep. There is not one valueless person in this room. You were all created for a purpose. And the whole purpose of this life is to find the purpose we were created for. And we can't get that unless we first come to the Lord. And then He takes us on this narrow path to show us who we are in Him. And we're still, we get a little bit of knowledge, then we have to, there's something else we might have to go through to go a little further. But the more this flesh gets killed, the more the spirit gets raised up, and the more we study this word, we will find out who we are. And the proof of that is in James chapter 1, because God calls the Torah of liberty, James chapter 1, I think it's right before Peter. Okay, it says here, verse 23, starting verse 23. If anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks at his natural face in a mirror. What do you see in a mirror? You see yourself, right? For once he has looked at himself and gone away, he has immediately forgotten what kind of person he was. But one who looks intently, and he calls it, it's no longer a mirror. He calls it the perfect law. The law of liberty, the Torah of liberty, and abides by it, not having become a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the word, this man will be blessed in what he does. But you know what it is? What are you doing when you're looking intently at the mirror? You're looking intently at yourself. And he says, in the word, if you're in the word, you will find out who you are, and you won't forget. And the enemy won't come and rob and tell you that, you're nothing, that you're valueless. You got to throw away all those voices. You got to throw away all those people that have mistreated you. We all got to do it. I had to do it. We all have to do it. You know what? Everybody is nothing. You know what? This is very great if you understand this, that we are actually all dust. We are actually all the grass that withers, the flower that fades. We are nothing. And that means the greatest person out there is nothing. Any goodness that comes in any of our lives is from the Lord. Amen. And we don't get glory for ourselves. There should be an ounce of pride in our lives. Pride is leaven. It's sin. Okay? If we're going to be prideful in us, we're prideful in what God is doing in us, and that's the only pride we're permitted to have. Amen. Because there is no light in us. There's nothing good. I don't care how many books people have written. I don't care how big their congregation is. They are nothing. The great danger is when people think that they're something. And they start saying, you're so small, you must not be doing something right. Yep. They are the ones that are in great danger. Their souls are in danger, and the people that they're leading is in danger of losing their souls. But Yeshua said, what is it to have to have everything and lose your soul? And if they can't look at a brother or sister as an equal, and that they're better or they're worse, they're in great danger. Because all of us are equal. No one's better than another. Yes, some of us are more mature, and some of us have authority on us, but that doesn't make us better than each other. My authority makes me responsible for teaching you right, because God's going to call me into account. That's dangerous. And I just want to do what God wants. I don't see myself better than any of you. And none of you are better than me. We are all trying to work out our salvation with fear and trembling every day. And we look in the mirror. We hear this word and we do it. And that's how we know ourselves and we know Him. That's our whole existence. And we do His word. We love God with all our hearts, soul, and strength, and we love our neighbor as ourselves. And we take care of each other. We take care of the poor, the widow, and the orphan, and we take care of Israel. And we pray for each other, and we hold each other up. Listen, we are here to build each other up, not tear each other down. That's the problem. It's the tongue. Let's stop the tongue, please. Zip on the tongue. You know, we are all brutalized by what everybody says. And it doesn't matter what anyone says. And we have to start to realize something. If we would just be confident in what God has called us to do, we wouldn't have to worry. You know, if we would really understand that when people attack us or come against us, they're not really coming against us. They're coming against the Spirit of the Lord in us. Okay? So realize that they're really coming against God, and that's dangerous. There's no room for pride or arrogance. There's absolutely no room. And there's a great danger in that. Now, this activity of the accuser of the brethren that goes on in congregations has got to come to an end. This does not happen, I know with all my heart, in places where Christians are persecuted, like North Korea and China and other things. They don't attack each other. They get together, they study, they build each other up, because they're under great persecution. They're under danger every day of their lives. Is that what it's going to take to get the believers in this country to be like that? Because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to understand that we're supposed to love one another. He said, build up one another, encourage one another, love one another. Where did Yeshua ever say, make sure you attack each other? Make sure you put everybody down that's not like you. Yeah, we're all so vastly different. Thank God. There is not another Elliot around. There's not another Raquel around. There's not another Gamaliel around. There's not another Dean around. And, you know, it's like, there's only one of each of us. And each of us are our own tree. Okay? Even though me and Christina are married, we're still very different. But that's okay. We're different together. And we're helping each other. She's my helpmate. And it's amazing that God can make one flesh out of two different people. Because just as it's, you know, there's not one snowflake's alike. Of course, it's nice to think about snowflakes when it's so hot out there. Okay, but just, you know, one snowflake is alike. Not one of us is alike. Think about that. But look at the beautiful white that it makes together. Of course, out here, it's so warm that it melts before it hits the ground, so it never turns white. Let's call it the extra area. Okay, so getting back to the Torah portion. Basically, I should name this, it's better to be a dumb donkey than a hired out man of wealth, or a prophet of wealth. Okay, that's really what this is about. And God is having a good time with Bil'am. Because he's like, Israel's been following him in the wilderness, and he says, let me show you. And he takes him to 4 different locations and prophesies. And everything he prophesies, it's all good. Okay, so let's start looking a little bit at that. Actually, the place where it says struggle to enter the narrow gate is in Luke 13, 24 to 28. But it might not say struggle in that scripture. Luke 13. Okay, let's go to page 7. Okay, so looking at the first time he actually goes to prophesy, we're chapter 22, verse 6. So now, come, please, and curse for me this people. For powerful are they, more than me. Perhaps I will be able to strike them, and I will drive them from the land. For I know that he whom he bless is blessed. Okay, wait, so that's not where it starts. Okay. Let's see, let's go down a little bit.
think I have the wrong verses in there. That's okay. Okay. It was after the whole she-donkey thing. Okay, I might have the wrong chapter there.
Should be. I think it's chapter 23.
Yeah. I think it might be 23:6. So mark that in your notes. It starts at 23:6, around there. Okay. So he built 7 altars and sacrificed a bull and a ram. And Yehovah put a message in the mouth of Bil'am, and he said, "Go back to Balak, and thus you shall speak." He went back to him, and indeed he was standing by near his burnt offering, he and all the officers of Moab. And verse 7, he took up this parable, and he said, "From Aram he led me, Balak, king of Moab did, from the mountains of the east. Go curse for me, Yaakov. Go bring anger upon Israel." How can I curse when not cursing, did God? How can I bring anger when not angry is Yehovah? For from the top of the rocks I see it. From the hills I observe it. Indeed, it is a nation that alone will dwell among the nations. It will not be reckoned among the nations. Who has counted the dust of Yaakov, or numbered a quarter of the camp of Israel? May it die, my soul, the death of the upright, and may it be my end, like his. Now, it's interesting, but the word end there isn't kes. It's the word acharei, or achariti, which is my end. He's saying, may my end be like their end. Okay, there is an end, and it's the kingdom. The word for the end is the kingdom, really, for the righteous. Okay, so he says all these wonderful things, and he says, from the top of the rocks do I see it, from the hills do I observe it, a nation that alone. Okay, when you walk with God, you're going to be alone. Okay? You do have brothers and sisters who are with you, because God brings them to you. Like-minded. Look at David. David was running from King Saul, and he went into a cave, and it says everybody that was in trouble, everybody that was in distress, everybody that was in debt came to David in the cave. They were all in trouble, and God raised the kingdom up from the misfits. Guess what? This is a group of misfits. We're all misfits. We're all alone and separated. The Jews don't want us around. Many Christians don't want us around. Either for the Jews, we're too Christian, or for the Christians, we're too Jewish. And some of the Messianic Jews who want religion, they don't want us around either. Okay, so we're kind of in a weird spot. But it's alone. And if we're following God, we're going to be alone. If you want to be a part of Israel, you need to be ready to be alone and trusting in the Lord. Okay, a nation that alone will dwell among the nations that will not be reckoned. So that's the first prophecy. But he said that I wish that my end will be like his, like Israel. In other words, because they are going to be so blessed. You know, okay, so let's look at the next prophecy, which I think is in verse, he tries to curse him. Balak is really upset now. I told you I was going to pay you to curse them and you bless them. So Bil'am says, I told you I couldn't say anything but what the Lord tells me to say. Okay, so they went to the top of the peak of a mountain, and he built 7 more altars, and a bull and a ram they offered on each altar. On each altar, a bull and a ram. That's a lot. So think about it. They got 7 altars. So that was 7 bulls and 7 rams they offered up, so that Bil'am could hear a word, or maybe he could curse. He could curse Israel for them, but he couldn't. He said to Balak, stand by here near the burnt offering, and I will happen to meet here. Jehovah happened upon Bil'am and put a message in his mouth, and he said, Go back to Balak, and so shall you speak. He came to him, and indeed he was standing by near his burnt offering, and the officers of Moab were with him. Say to him, did Balak, what has Jehovah spoken? And he took up this parable and said, Stand erect, O Balak, and hear. Listen to me, O son of Zippor. Not a man is God that he should be deceitful, nor a son of man that he should change his mind. Would it be that he would say and not do, or speak and not confirm it? Indeed, to bless have I received the order. He has blessed, and I shall not cancel it. He did not perceive iniquity in Jacob. Now this blows me away. He saw no sin in Jacob. Okay? And he did not see mischief or trouble in Israel. After all that they did, God looks upon Israel and he says, there's no sin in her. There's nothing wrong with her. Think about that. Remember all these past weeks, the complaining and everything? 38 years they've been dying. They've been complaining about the manna and all this stuff. And God still looks at her and says, she's following after me in the wilderness. That I don't see anything wrong with her. She's not even sinning against me. This is what God has done for us through the blood of Messiah. I see no sin. I see no mischief in us. He sees none of that. So, it says here, Jehovah, his God, is with him. And, now I love this, and the friendship of a king is in him. The friendship of a king. Listen, all of us, because we became believers, who are we believers in? The king. Did not Yeshua say, I call you friends and not servants? The friend, so in here is another prophecy. They are friends with the King of all creation. We are friends with God. I am a friend of God. Maybe we should have sang that one today. But that's okay. I am a friend of God. We sang it last week. So, but it's basically the friendship of a king is in him. It is God who brought them out of Egypt according to the strength and loftiness that are his. For there is no divination in Jacob and no sorcery in Israel. Even now it is said to Yaakov and to Israel, what God has wrought, what he has done. Indeed, the people like a lion cub will get up, and like a lion raise itself, and it will not lie down until it consumes prey, and the blood of the slain it drinks. Balak said to Bil'am, at least if a curse, you did not curse them, but also a blessing, you shall not bless them. In other words, he's saying, okay, I can't get you to curse them, but don't bless them. That's what Balak is saying to Bil'am. He's getting really frustrated. He's so afraid, up to the point of death. And this time he says, okay, I'm fine. If you won't curse them, don't curse them, but don't bless them either. That's what he was saying. He was getting really frustrated, really angry. Okay, but think about it. He's saying that like a lion they are. They're like lions, the people of Israel, the people of Jacob. And it's like, who's going to rouse them up? In other words, that really hit hard on Balak, because a lion is like fierce and powerful. And that's what he was afraid of. They're going to come and get us. Okay, so there's a breakdown, by the way, of all these things in here, okay, in the notes. But I'm not going to go over all that, okay? Let's talk about the third time that he's ordered to curse Israel, and he blesses them. It's in chapter 23. I think I have the wrong verses in here, Josh. Yeah, the third time. Let me just find it. In chapter 24, Bill saw that it was good in the eyes of Jehovah, chapter 24, verse 1, to bless Israel. And so he did not go as every other time to seek divinations, and in other words, he was actually creating divinations, using sorcery to try to reach the God of Israel. And he said, well, God seems to be happy to bless us, so I'm not going to seek to do evil anymore to get there. But he set toward the wilderness his face. Bil'am raised his eyes, and he saw Israel dwelling according to the tribes, and there was upon him the Spirit of God. And he took up his parable and said, the words of Bil'am, the son of Beor, the words of the man with a perceptive eye. He was praising himself. The words of the one who hears the sayings of God, who has a vision of Shaddai, sees while falling, yet with uncovered eyes. Okay, now, this is interesting that he says this. He is not a man of God, Bil'am, but he's hearing from God. Okay, and he says, I have a vision of Shaddai. I see while fallen, because he's fallen, yet with uncovered eyes. In other words, he sees into the spirit realm, but he's fallen. That's what he's saying. Now, this is the part that I pay attention. How goodly are your tents, O Yaakov, your dwelling places, O Israel. Like brooks meandering, like gardens near a river, like aloes planted by Yehovah, like cedars near water. How the flows shall water from his buckets, and his seed shall be near waters that are abundant. Exalted over Agag. Agag is the leader of the Amalekites. Okay, over Agag shall be his king. Exalted over Agag shall be his king, and upraised shall be his kingdom. It is God who brought him out of Egypt, according to the strength and loftiness that are his. He will consume the nations that oppress him, and their bones he will crush, and their arrows shall pierce them. He crouched and he lay down like a lion, and like a lion cub. Who can stand him up? Those who bless you are blessed, those who curse you are accursed. Flared did the anger of Balak against Bil'am, and he clapped his hands. Balak said to Bil'am, to curse my enemies that I invite you, and indeed you will continually bless them, these 3 times. Okay, what does this mean? The prophecy is that by the way, I haven't read scriptures in here, but I don't know what I did up here. Okay, you see this part on top of page 7? I don't think that's correct. Okay, but the 4 times are listed with the right scriptures in it. Okay, so look at prophecy 3. It begins on page 10. Okay, God will bring Israel to a place of rest, the physical land in Eretz Yisrael, and a future kingdom led by Messiah. We will rule and reign with Messiah on future earthly Jerusalem for a 1,000-year Messianic kingdom. But we as believers are also looking for the New Jerusalem. Okay, so this prophecy is talking about the coming kingdom. So it says that says here, how goodly are your tents, O Yaakov, your dwelling places, like brooks meandering, like gardens near a river, like aloes planted by Yehovah, like cedars near the water. Flows shall water from his buckets, and his seeds shall be near waters that are abundant, exalted over Agag. Okay, so basically, he's near these waters, and the waters are life. Okay, the life of God, and it is telling us. Now look at or the top of page 10. The prophecy of Israel resting, but it's your rest. It's your rest. Prophecy of Messiah as king defeating Satan, because God is defeating Satan in your lives. Amen. The crushing and piercing of every nation that oppressed Israel. All your oppressors will be crushed. Amen. And pierced. Right. You will rule with Messiah with a rod of iron as a lion. And the covenant of blessing and cursing will be upon you. That those who bless you will be blessed, and those who curse you will be cursed. Amen. That belongs to us. And the last prophecy is God removing all sin from Israel, because remember what he said, I see no mischief in Israel. So there's a prophecy about also that affects us, because God has removed sin from our lives by believing in Yeshua. You have been joined to Israel according to Romans chapter 11. Amen. So that's your blessing as well. He has removed sin from your lives. See, all these prophecies, these blessings that are being spoken by Bil'am, is also spoken to us to understand our place. Okay, and then after all that, and Balak has given up on him, he says he like in their face. Chapter 24, verse 11. He said, now flee. This is what Balak is saying to Bil'am. Now flee for yourself to your place. I said I would certainly honor you, but indeed you have kept away. Yehovah has from honor. I'm not going to honor you because you haven't cursed the people. Bil'am said to Balak, is it not so that also to your emissaries whom you sent to me I spoke, saying, if he were to give me Balak were, such as fills the house with silver and gold. In other words, Bil'am said, I'll do this if you give me a house full of silver and gold. Okay, but he wanted that silver and gold. But God was not giving him the ability to get it. So he came up with another way. And it was very bad, the way he came up with it. But before we get into that, let's go down a bit. At verse 14, and now indeed I am going to my people, come, I shall advise you. Now he's telling to Balak, he said, come, I shall advise you what they will do. And he's talking about Israel. What Israel will do to this people, to your people, at the end of days. This doesn't happen yet. It will happen. Okay? So that's the word, the Achari Hayamin. That's in the day of the Lord. Okay? He took up his parable and he said, the words of Bil'am, the son of Beor, the words of a man with a perceptive eye, the words of the one who hears the sayings of God and the one who knows the knowledge of the Supreme One, and who the vision of Shaddai sees when fallen, yet with uncovered eyes. I shall see it, but not now. I shall observe it, but not near. In other words, it's in the future. Issued has a star from Jacob, and arisen is a scepter bearer from Israel, and he shall pierce the nobles of Moab, and demolish the walls of all the children of Seth. And it shall be, Edom shall be a conquest, and it shall be the conquest of Seir. His enemies in Israel will attain success. There shall rule one from Jacob, and he will destroy the remnant of the cities. He saw Amalek and took up his parable, and he said, first among the nations is Amalek, but its end will be eternal destruction. He saw the Kenite and took up his parable, and he said, strong is your dwelling, and set in a rock is your nest. For if they should be laid waste, the Kenite, until where can Assyria take you captive? He took up his parable, and he said, oh, who will survive when he imposes these? Big ships from the coast of Kittim will afflict Assyria and afflict the other bank, but also it will be destroyed forever. But Bil'am got up and went and returned to his place, and also Balak went on his way. Okay, this prophecy is extremely deep. It's a prophecy of the end, and it's broken down in here. And I'm just going to give you some parts of it here. First of all, it says, a star will come from Jacob. This is Messiah. This is Yeshua. This is Jesus. Okay, and his kingship authority, he will be the scepter bearer from Israel. And Messiah will pierce the nobles of Moab. Moab was a very idolatrous nation, so it means at the feet of idolatrous nations and their kings and princesses. And this is in the prophets too. Okay, number 3. King Messiah Yeshua demolishes the walls and destroys the children of Seth. Seth was the third son of Adam and Chava, and represents the destruction of all the people on the face of the earth. Destruction of all nations in the day of the Lord. Okay, and Israel's successful conquest of Edom and Seir, the defeat of Rome and its doctrines of hate, may also be the Islamic religion in all its forms. That all the hate within the doctrines, even the doctrines that have come from Rome, that have inhabited many, much Christian doctrines, but it's like, you don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. Just because there's a lot of bad doctrines, God is still using the fact that people are getting saved today in the church. But there's a lot of bad doctrines, and that's all a part of Edom and Seir. God's Messiah is going to defeat those at the end, a conquest. Number 5, on page 11. King Messiah Yeshua will defeat all the remnants of Seir And that's in Isaiah 63, 1-6, the defeat of the nations that are connected to Rome, Roman doctrines with those who adhere to them. Number 6, King Messiah Yeshua, eternal destruction of Amalek. Amalek, it says, was the first of the nations, but if you look at it in Hebrew, it's Satan. It's the defeat of Satan himself and his power. And it says in there, Greece will defeat Assyria, but it also says that they will get defeated. So this actually may be referring to the Greeks defeating the Persians long ago under Alexander, and also Rome defeating the Greeks. This is also mainly about the future where Islam is defeated and destroyed, because Islam came from Rome. It's called the Eastern Empire. Remember, it was 2 legs. So, Bil'am couldn't curse Israel, but he came up with another way. He gave advice to Balak to seduce the men of Israel. And you can read this in Numbers 31, 15, and 16. And say to them to Moses, did you let live every female? They themselves were the cause of the children of Israel by the word of Bil'am to commit a betrayal against Jehovah in the matter of Peor, that there occurred a plague in the assembly. Okay, basically he was. Let's keep reading here. Okay, let's look at the end. Matthew. Bamidbar, Numbers 25. Okay, starting verse 1. Israel camped in the Shittim, and the people began to stray immorally with the daughters of Moab. So he got the daughters of Moab to take all their clothes off and dance and seduce the men of Israel, causing them to sin. Okay? He advised Balak to do this so he can get the house full of gold and silver. It was all for money purposes. They invited the people, the women invited the people to the feast of their gods, and the people ate and prostrated themselves to their gods. Israel became attached to Baal Peor and flared up to the anger of Jehovah against Israel. And Jehovah said to Moses, take all the leaders of the people, and they should hang them unto Jehovah in front of the sun, so that withdrew will the flaring anger of Jehovah from Israel. And Moses said to the judges of Israel, let each man kill his men who were attached to Baal Peor. And suddenly a man of the children of Israel came and brought forth to his brothers a Midianite woman before the eyes of Moses and before the eyes of the entire assembly and the children of Israel. And they were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting, the tabernacle. And he saw Pinchas. Get to know that name because that's next week's portion. Pinchas. Excuse me, that was a little hard for me to say. Everybody say Pinchas. There you go. Okay, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron, the Cohen, saw, and he got up in the midst of the assembly, and he took a spear in his hand, and he came after the man of Israel into the tent and impaled them both, while he was together with the woman. Impaled them both, the man of Israel and the woman, into her stomach, and halted with the plague upon the children of Israel. And they were, those who died in the plague, 24,000 Israelites, because of the deception of Bil'am that he told to Balak. Okay, and actually it goes into more detail. I think it's in 2 Peter 2, 15 and 16. Let's look at that. It says here, forsaken the right way, they have gone astray, having followed the way of Bil'am, the son of Beor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness, and he received the rebuke for his own transgression, for a mute donkey. Speaking with the voice of a man, restrained the madness of the prophet. Look at Jude 1, verse 11. That's right before Revelation. Woe to them, for they have gone the way of Cain and paid. They have rushed headlong into the Ur of Bil'am and perished in the rebellion of Korah. This is in Jude 1:11. These are those who rebel against God. Okay, and then in the book of Revelation, chapter 2:14. I just want you to see that the scriptures tell us what he did. 2:14. It says here, but I have a few things against you. He's speaking against one of the churches. I think it's the church of Pergamum. I have a few things against you because you have there some who hold to the teaching of Bil'am, who kept teaching Balak to put a stumbling block before the sons of Israel to eat things sacrificed to idols and commit acts of immorality. So he was advising them how to hurt Israel. But when they were destroyed, when Joshua went into the land, they killed. Well, actually, I think it was before that. They killed the Moabites. They went and they attacked Moab. They weren't really going to attack Moab, but Moab did what they did. So they went and they attacked Moab, and they killed Bil'am. It says that they killed Bil'am. Okay, so this guy, we can't compromise. You can't worship the God of Israel and also worship all the other gods too. Yes.
Didn't they trample him to death with their feet?
Yeah, I think so. I have to look it up. I can't remember where it's at, where it actually talks about the death. I should have written it down. But anyhow, what God is saying is be a pig. If someone is coming and doing wrong, put a spear in them. Of course, I know we're in the laws of the land of America, and you're not supposed to kill people and stuff, but, you know, spiritually speaking, put a spear in immorality. Put a spear in idolatry. Be a pig. If that's what we're called to do. Stand for God.
Look at yourself.
If no one else will, put to death the enemy. Now, I'm not saying attack them with your words. I mean, action. Do something.
Spears.
Abba, I ask in the name of Yeshua, Lord, that you just seal this instruction in us, Abba. These words of this prophet, you were just showing off your people. And you were showing off your people because they were following you in the wilderness. And yes, they complained. And yes, they had problems. And yes, many of them died. And they were weak. But you know our weakness, it says on the word, Lord. Forgive us, Lord. And Abba, I thank you, Lord, that you love us more than we love ourselves. Help us, Lord. Help us to be better, Abba, to not give into the temptation of immorality, the temptation, Abba, that would take us away, and that we would lose everything, Abba. We do not want to be compromisers. We want to be sold out to you, Lord, and not follow the Baal Peor, the worshipers, the false worshipers, the idol worshipers, Lord. Teach us your ways in this hour, because there's more idols than there ever were, Lord. And there's more distractions than there ever was. But Lord, we want to just be in line with you, because when things get bad, we want to be a light for you, Lord. We want to shine for you. We want you to say of us, we want you to put the enemy in fear and melt the heart of the enemies. And we want you to say of us, there's my people, they are without sin. There is nothing wrong in them. There is no mischief or trouble in them. In the name of Yeshua. Lord, guard us. Protect us, Lord, as we go through this season. Continue to protect us. I ask, Lord, for blessings to be among us like it was upon Israel. And no matter what Bil'am tried to do, that he kept blessing Israel instead of cursing them. I ask, Lord, that you would just bless us, Lord. Amazingly, Abba, show the difference, Abba. Yes, we are alone, but Lord, we have every provision. I ask, Lord, to release every provision for all those that are here, Lord, in this hour, not for our glory, but for your glory. To be a blessing, Abba, and to be blessed. To show your kingdom in our lives. In the name of Yeshua.